Ella D'Arcy, a short story collection. An introduction. Ella D'Arcy was born on 23rd of August 1857 in London, one of 9 children. Her education spanned London, Germany, France and the Channel Islands. A student of fine art, her poor eyesight meant a switch to literature was necessary, and with this she had hopes to be an author. She worked as a contributor and unofficial editor alongside Henry Harland to the Yellow Book, Aubrey Beardsley's sensational quarterly magazine that combined art, stories, poetry, essays and much else besides. D'Arcy wrote several stories for the magazine, and her stories have an undeniable psychological and realist style through her engagement with various themes, from marriage, the family, imitation through to deception. Recognition of her talents grew after the publication of Irremediable in the Yellow Book, where it received much praise from critics. She also wrote and published in the Argosy, Blackwood's magazine and Temple Bar. However, D'Arcy's canon was small, and apart from her magazine stories, her book publishing was limited to Monochromes, 1895, Modern Instances and the Bishop's Dilemma, 1898. She also translated André Maurois' biography of Percy Bysshe Shelley, entitled Ariel, in 1924. Her diligence with work aside, she was notorious for her inability to maintain relationships with friends. When she did appear to them, it was often unannounced. This earned her the sobriquet Goblin Ella. D'Arcy spent much of her life living alone, though she had a constant urge to travel, but usually she resided on the edge of poverty. Her writing was often motivated by this need. Much of her later life was spent in Paris before returning to London in 1937, where she died in hospital on 5th of September.
At Twickenham by Ella D'Arcy. When John Corbett married Minnie Ray, her sister Letitia, their parents being dead, came to live under his roof also, which seemed to Corbett the most natural arrangement in the world, for he was an Irishman, and the Irish never count the cost of an extra mouth. "Where there's enough for 2, there's enough for 3, is a favourite saying of theirs, and even in the most impecunious Irish household, no one ever dreams of grudging you your bite of bread or your sup of the crather. But Corbett was not impecunious. On the contrary, he was fairly well off, being partner in and traveller for an Irish whisky house, and earning thus between 800 and 900 a year. In the income tax returns, he put the figure down as 500, but in conversation he referred to it casually as over 1,000, for he had some of the vices of his nationality as well as most of its virtues, and to impress Twickenham with a due sense of the worth of John Corbett was perhaps his chief preoccupation out of business hours. He lived in an imitation high-art villa on the road to Strawberry Hill, a villa that rejoiced in the name of Braemar, gilded in Gothic letters upon the wooden gate, a villa that flared up into pinnacles, blushed with red brick, and mourned behind sad tinted glass. The Elizabethan casements let in piercing draughts, the Brummagem brass door handles came off in the confiding hand that sought to turn them, the tiled hearths successfully conducted all the heat up the chimneys to disperse it generously over an inclement sky. But Corbett found consolation in the knowledge that the hall was paved with grey and white mosaic, that salve bristled at you from the doormat, that the dining-room boasted of a dado, and that the drawing-room rose to the dignity of a frieze. Minnie Corbett, whose full name was Margaret, but who preferred to be called Rita, although she could not teach her family to remember to call her so, and Letitia, who had recently changed the Tish of her childhood to the more poetical Letty, dressed the windows of Braemar with frilled Madras muslin, draped the mantelpieces with plush, hung the walls with coloured photographs,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?